Hello everyone, I'm Rajeshri. A very warm welcome to you all in the first episode of 2026. And I'm extremely delighted and proud to present a musical piece in this episode, which is actually created by my piano teacher, Mr. James Billingham, who himself is an outstanding pianist and excellent composer. James published his first book of music last year. But this book is not an usual music book. I am not saying a single word for promotional purpose, but after I complete this episode, you all will know who are music lovers and who play music, that this book is going to be a very valuable addition to anybody's library. A concept which was there long time ago. In German, it's called Gesamtkunstwerk, a synthesis of multiple form of art. Actually, James established this concept in this book in 21st century. In the early half of 19th century, a creative genius, a walking contradiction with colossal talent was born in the city called Leipzig in Germany. We are talking about none other than one of the most famous composers of 19th century in Western classical music world, Richard Wagner. Wagner believed in this concept, and in his rather, if I like to tell you a few lines about his philosophy, how he used to perceive music, beautifully written by Simon Callow in his book on Wagner. Wagner despised the idea of theater as entertainment, but equally he despised the notion of art for art's sake. The Greeks had got it right, he said. Their drama was a communal act, a sacred event, in which the ancient stories of the tribe were played out, enabling the audience to confront the deepest, most sublime, and most terrible truths of human life, producing a profound and overwhelming release, a catharsis, which was the whole point of the drama. The Greeks had achieved this with an irresistible fusion of the combined arts of acting, gesture, scenic effect, poetry, and music. And that is Gesamtkunstwerk. Now, in James's book, which is called Paintings in Sound, a piano journey through art, what James did, he took inspiration from various painters' artwork, and among those, his own 6 years old son, Rowan Billingham, is there as well. So it has got a personal, emotional touch. And then James composed music from that inspiration. And he didn't stop there. As I have said just now, he established this concept so well that he wrote for each and every painting a 2 lines poem. It reminded me somewhat like haiku in Japan, how they do. But obviously, that has got a grammar of 3 to 5 lines. This is like 2 lines. And beautifully, he actually described or depicted what he felt about that music, felt about the painting. So, when you actually get the book, you can look at it in many different ways. I don't want to utter the word use because it is a total uh, collection and synthesis of art. So, as a reader, you can go straight to the musical score and play it in your piano, and then try to think about the painting. And then you can go to the internet where in James's own channel, Piano Lessons for You, where he recorded all the scores. So you can try to match it or try to see how the composer himself perceived it and what you felt. Or you can just read those 2 lines of the poems and then you can play the music. So it's many ways you can use that book, which is a total work of art. And coming to the painting, the one which I have chosen to play the composition for, it is by one of the very famous painters of 19th century, latter half of the 19th century, Harriet Backer. Now, she was a Norwegian painter. And that's when, as my nature, I tried to find out a bit about Harriet Backer. And I can't tell you what I have found out. Harriet came from a family of musicians. Her younger sister, Agathe Backer Grondhal, again was not one of the famous pianists of Norway and in Europe in the latter half of the 19th century. And there is the background, the relationship, the connection, and the development of these two sisters are very, very interesting. 19th century Europe, two females at the age of 20, they left their house just to go and enrich their knowledge in different forms of art in which they were interested in. So both the sisters spent almost more than a decade going from Norway. They started their journey. They went to Cologne, they went to Rome, Naples, Paris, and lastly, Weimar, before they came back to Norway again. So, on that note, I just need to read out few lines, what Harriet said, just before she decided to become a painter. Because, as I have mentioned, she came from a family of music where piano was a big thing. All the other sisters, they used to play piano and they were good musicians as well. Though Harriet became a painter, she said, "Nothing in the whole world has given me as much pleasure as music, and I have always considered it the highest of all art forms." So when I looked at the painting, I thought that it is actually not only something to do with art. There was the strings and threads of music hidden in it. Because she did say her musical gifts have been of the greatest importance to my own artistic development, where she meant her is her sister Agathe. She said the painting is music to the eye. The colors in the picture had to resonate in a coloristic interaction in the same way that harmonies create timbres in music. So, in James's book, this is the book with a beautiful cover page. I'm going to mention it in the description box as well. This book, where the philosophy of Harriet, Wagner, and James's own philosophy, they all somehow got incorporated and established very, very authentically and beautifully. And talking a little about Harriet's sister, Agathe Backer Grondhal. Agathe's music was very unique, and it had the strong influence of Norwegian fairy tales with Liszt's styles. And Edvard Grieg called Agathe, she was like a mimosa flower, which we call in common name, in a common version, touch me not. She had that mimosa-like aloofness in her music. How the mimosa flower recoils when you touch it. So it's a very sensitive music which she has composed and created. George Bernard Shaw was a big admirer of Agathe's music. And she gave concert in London, Paris, many places, and she was an excellent teacher as well. And Harriet painted a collection of paintings where piano was the main theme. In Harriet's flat in Paris, the first furniture she bought was a piano. And the Parisian circle used to gather there. There used to be music, there used to be a lot of discussion. So a painter, almost throughout her whole life, she was surrounded by music. And what was her style? She said, every atom is color. So color was a very big thing in her in her painting. Color and shades. As she said about music, tones and timbre. The painting which I have chosen, it doesn't have a piano in it. It is about a library. It's not it's not an ordinary library though. It's a private library, but it was owned by a civil servant, Norwegian civil servant, Theovold Box, and his collection was very well known. It was the best collection of books, and he commissioned Harriet to uh, paint his library room. And in James's composition, if you listen to it minutely, you will feel the specks of dust accumulated on the books. And Harriet beautifully painted the worn out colors of the books, and rather you could feel the whole atmosphere of a grand private library. So I tried my level best to play, whilst I was practicing, play it as uh, beautifully as possible. And as because we are trying to establish, remember, and bring back the philosophy of Gesamtkunstwerk, I thought, why not I contribute a little bit as a listener of that music? And why did I do that? Richard Wagner did change the world of opera music. And because he was a strong believer of Gesamtkunstwerk, he decided not to play his opera in any opera house. He wanted his own opera house. That's the reason the Bayreuth Festival Theatre was created in Germany with the help of the king. Richard Wagner himself designed the theatre. The architecture, the sitting arrangements of the audience, a hidden pit for the orchestra, and obviously the music and everything. It has an amazing acoustics, rather the best acoustics in the world. Because in the hidden pit also, which is hidden from the audience, but obviously right in front of the stage, the music instruments were arranged in a way so that the audience get to hear the best music ever. So obviously the sound used to get reflected to the stage first, where it used to mingle with the voice of the singers, and then used to reflect back to the audience. So there is another word which was very important at that time. It's called Stimmung. It is the mood of the listeners. In German, the word. So in that opera theater, a relationship Wagner used to create a relationship between the performer and the listener. So you can imagine the outcome, and you can imagine with what kind of a thought process was used to go on in listener's mind, where so much work had been put in order to get the best result. So imagining myself sitting in Bayreuth and listening to the recording of James's music, I just thought, as a musician myself and as a listener, I composed 4 bars of music, which I am going to play in the beginning and the end of James's composition. I tried to blend it with the composition. I don't know how much I have achieved. That's up to all of you to judge. So that is the main theme of today's episode. And I hope all of you would enjoy the music as I have enjoyed listening to it and in the making of the process. And I would genuinely request all of you to, as a musician, as a pianist, if you want to give it a try and play it and get the whole experience of a painting, of a beautiful poem, and then the music, and then go on and listen to the recording, which is available in the internet. And I'm going to put everything about the in the description box where you can get it. So on that note, I will play the composition of a 21st century composer, and before that I will display a picture of his book, a picture of Agathe Grondhal, Agathe Backer Grondhal, Harriet Backer, and a little glimpse of none other than the great man, Richard Wagner. Thanks very much for listening. Now I'll show you a glimpse of our 21st century composers, James Billingham's book, Paintings in Sound, A Piano Journey Through Art. And then the painting of the library, which inspired him to compose the music which I'm going to play today. And now I'll show you a portrait of Harriet Backer, the painter. And then a portrait of Agathe Backer Grondhal, the pianist and a great musician of 19th century. And then comes the creative genius, Richard Wagner. So with that, I'll start playing today's music. The name of the piece is The Library of Thorvald Pohl. And the beautiful line which James wrote about the composition and depicting the picture, soft beams fall where stories grow, as wisdom sleeps in silent rows. How profound. Light and shade both were very important to Harriet. So in order to bring out the light which was created by the brush strokes of Harriet, I think James did a wonderful job. I know I won't be able to do complete justice to it because it is a difficult piece, but I'll try my level best. And I'll start with those four bars which I have dedicated to this hugely talented four artists I'm dealing with in this episode. And I'll end with those 4 bars. But the main composition is James's music. Hope we all will enjoy it together. Thank you.